And we are live once again. We're here, and I have really the honor and the privilege to spend some one-on-one time with my dear friend, Lisa Sheehan. We are lighting the candle, and we are creating a world that works. And we're doing this through conversation and dialogue. We're actually speaking conceptually, and we're putting the work in to create pathways for people to find encouragement, empowerment, empathy, and engagement in their life. In the last half-hour segment, we spoke in depth about possibility, both as a construct and as an accessible practice or a way of being. I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and I'm going to change our view to the gallery view so that both of us are the same size. If I knew how to put, I'd ask you if you want to be on the top or the bottom here, but I think it did chose for us.
Yeah, I've never had it not gallery, so.
Yeah. So when I'm recording it, I usually try to, make the speaker the largest, but with just two of us, I think this is an appropriate way to go. So last half hour, we kind of scratched the surface of possibility. I mean, there are month-long, year-long, courses. There are practices that you can go to Tibet and you can work with monks, and the whole idea is for you to get muscle in the area of clearing a space in your thinking and in your life for a moment for something new to appear, something that's going to be a breakthrough that you create on the inside first and then out there in the world second. They actually believe that there is no world out there. In every moment, we are creating the world that we experience in our head first, and then we go and find the evidence for it that it's out there, So one of the neat things that I always get from you, Lisa, is you spend a lot of time working and in courses and reading and all of those sorts of things. And I'd like to hear more about what you're up to at the moment. Who are you studying with, and what do the topics seem to be, and how is that affecting your life?
I think I mentioned the book in the previous segment. It's Valerie Kaur, Kaur is her name, and she wrote See No Stranger. And I took a course with her prior to this through Kripalu, the center in Massachusetts. And she has what attracted me to her was that she had an awesome TED Talk. And I was just so taken by it that I immediately looked her up and then saw the course at Kripalu, bought the book. And now she did a thing called the People's Inauguration, which started January 21st, because their whole philosophy and I believe it's true is that because of whoever won in the election, it was no time to rest. It was time to make sure that you stood for your causes even stronger than you did before. And so every day she created this compass on how to react in the world, how to get through, how to make change, basically, how to reimagine the world as you'd like to see it in different aspects. And she's basically mostly for because she's a Sikh, so she has been studying atrocities against her own people especially since 9/11. Yeah. But it's for all people of colors, especially, that they're looking at these things. But every night she's been doing a video and then a talk with other thought leaders in that area every night. So it's been quite intense because there's faith leaders and spirit organization leaders. And she's a lawyer herself, been fighting for legal rights for civil rights for like 20 years. So, and her own life is an interesting story. So that's been at my heart for a while now, and it's been every day. So it's a 10-day thing. So it's something that is top of mind as far as being engaging.
Do you find that it's an additive process in terms of the conversations, or is it something where each evening kind of stands on its own?
I think they could stand on their own, but it's the way she calls it a compass. Actually, compass has been coming up a lot lately too. Different books I've been looking at, but or a wheel. I keep thinking wheels and compasses always come back into play, but they're because it's always a subject within the wheel. There's 9 different topics. So reimagine was one. Rage is one. Reimagine rage. So it was like looking at yourself, looking at others, and then how to create a new world is basically how. And having that conversation, like we were talking about before, finding the common ground. And she went around the world actually, filming places where atrocities had happened, and talking to the survivors, and then making a film out of it. So, and she's met so many of these people along the way that they're very interesting people and very good speakers, so they know their shit, so to speak.
That's
so it's, they can definitely stand alone, but
yeah. In this context, that's a technical term.
Yes, exactly.
And you do see it on bumpers, so something about it happening. I don't know, but all right. So good. And now in the meantime, let's kind of tie that back in with the Epic magazine. If you don't mind, I'd like to spend a little bit of time. I don't know how widely known this is, but it's a physical magazine that is published on every bi-monthly basis, every 60 days, a new, very nice. And the cover on mine, I believe, was orange, if I remember correctly. It was kind of an orange feel. There it is. And no, I'll tell you what, it's something that I'm very proud of, to have published. I've had other articles be in newspapers and that sort of thing, and technical talks in the Chronicle 25, 30 years ago. But it's the first kind of like personal declaration, that I've ever written, and I really appreciate you. I'm going to say it again. I thank you, for not only giving me the opportunity, but also, kind of tracking me down. What's that?
This one is yours.
Oh, that is? Okay. Then I must have received another one either before or after. But the point to the story is the one I remember is the orange one. So all of that aside, yes, listening for the unseen. And one of the most powerful sentences in the entire story is when my 6-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, why do I know things?" That's how she expressed it. And, so we've had lots of conversations, probably not many in the last 10 years, but, by the time she was 10 years old, we weren't talking about it like a subject any longer. So really, those of you that are out there that have a statement that you'd like to make to the world, we were talking about casting pebbles into the pond. And being a writer, and submitting, your thoughts to be printed in this magazine and be read by other powerful thinkers and critical thinkers and people that are just up for a better world, be part of that. Get in touch with Lisa and let her know what you'd like to talk about, and she'll find a way because she's really good at it. So. Now, with that said, are there any particular topics that people have asked for, or that you might be looking to have writers submit articles about?
Oddly enough, the only thread that we kind of even hint at is that it pertains to the season that the publication is coming out in. Okay. And it somehow works out that way. So I think we found that having a specific topic kind of ties people up rather than, or ties us up too, that we have to stick to a certain thing, or if they're not into that topic, they won't even look at the article or the whole magazine if we had a complete theme going through it. So We'd rather just, who can hate the seasons? Well, I guess some people could.
There are a couple that are not my favorite.
See, I love them all, and that's the thing. But
Good.
And I was thinking about, well, you were talking about your granddaughter, and because I think that's one of those things that we come into the world forgetting where we came from, forgetting our connection to, for lack of a better term, or the better term, the divine kind of thing. Because I can always, because it reminded me when I saw the cover that you're in. I know I came in with the color purple. I was not influenced by anyone, so there's certain things that you can like turn to and go, nope, that was my own. Nobody influenced me, nothing. So it's when I discovered that, and it wasn't even that long ago that I discovered it, when somebody asked, because we're doing a writing exercise where, I am like the daughter of a, HVAC man, and then you kept going until you got down to like, what really am I, without taking away all the titles or imposed connections, what are you? So purple.
Yeah. It all comes down to a color. I like it. So if you think about it for a minute, that same game can be played with, and what does that make possible?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great game to play in a group of maybe 4 to 10 people. And it gets people, up and moving, and you can't be smiling when you're talking. I mean, you can't be not smiling when you're talking about what's possible. Another one is what do you love about your life? That's another one that whenever I'm with somebody who's really upset about something, and they've either had a loss or what, to give them kind of a window to look out of, and that, so answer the question, what do you love about your life? And for example, Lisa, what do you love about your life?
I love this planet. I love being here at this time. I know basically deep down that I've chosen to be here at this time. So that gives me a little nudge once in a while to go, let's see why you're here then. Let's prove your point. Let's make a, stamp on this time period with your name on it, kind of thing. And I don't know where that's leading me to. I do know I'm getting, and we could pick up pebbles or breadcrumbs, but I know, I'm being led somewhere, and where that might be, I'm not going to be so hung up on, but I am definitely in love with this life, this planet, as it is right now, and all bumps, bruises, and warts and all.
It is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is. And how about you, Mr. Corral?
I love waking up knowing that I'm going to have amazing conversations every single day. I also love all of my friends. I miss a lot of my networking buddies with our face-to-face stuff that we were doing a year ago. And I love the fact that I've always got some really interesting things going on from a technical standpoint. The groups that I'm working with in real estate, I can have a really full, rich experience of life just by talking to people. And at the end of the day, we're creating things that didn't exist, at the beginning of the conversation. And I think that's a lot of fun. For example, I've spent the last 3 weeks playing with little plastic boxes from China and Korea. And what I'm basically doing is I am putting together a hardware-software combination that allow people to watch television for free,
Oh,
I know. So, it has its really cool parts, and it has its foibles. And so I put some real stringent rules around it. It's got to be legal, ethical, and moral. It has to be something that people will get value out of. It has to be reliable and consistent, all of those sorts of things. So the reason that it's taking me a month is because there are still a couple of rough edges that I'm more or less working off. But yeah, no, I like being me. I like, waking up my wife and my family and my kitty cat. So one of the major breakthroughs that we've had in the last month is my cat has been sleeping on my lap multiple times a day. And earlier this week, he kind of took to jumping in my chair and sleeping in it when I left the room. And what I discovered was I always have a towel, between me and the chair in case I spill coffee or food or something like that. Well, he was in the chair, and I picked him up with the towel and put him in his bed with the towel, and he's happy as he can be with that bed and the towel. So that's called listening, to the unseen.
It's a piece of you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So he's happy as he can be. He spends a lot of time in that bed with a towel in it, and it probably smells like daddy, and that's what he wants. So
yeah. Yep.
So you know what? It's not major stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's not. And I was asked or watching a webinar. It's like hone in on like a moment, like storytellers. They can hone in on a moment. You're good at this too, and tell a whole story from it. Like they don't have to be monumental moments, but and from trying to hone in on moments that really like struck me or sparked something in me. And I realized that I love human expression, the uniqueness of it. I can't get enough of like watching people that have discovered their passion, especially in the arts, and display it for all to see, share it with the world. And I don't know what that could lead to either, but it's something that I know is like, is my vroom to to move forward or to keep going or to discover that kind of thing in people. And like you just talking about your creation, that's a human, that's a unique human expression, and I get a kick out of hearing people find that vein for themselves.
Yeah, it's the what's next for me. Is it earth shattering? I don't think so. Is it something that everyone can use? Well, I'm pretty sure they can. And at the same time, is it going to create a new income stream for me? Well, that's the intention. Let's have some fun with it. And all of that said, I can't lift them all up, but I have several different vintages of boxes here. I've gotten samples in from all over the country and actually from China. So I'm having fun. I really am. So in the meantime, the other question that I want to ask you, we had a wonderful lunch. Good Lord, it was during COVID times, but early on, and I want to say it was like maybe April or May, sort of thing. We had a ball. We had a really great conversation. And one of the thoughts that I had from being around you is, and I'm interested in how you got this. You have a skill with being an empathetic and also a very active listener. And is this something that you came out of corporate with, or is this something that you spent some time doing other things, or is it a skill that you just picked up along the way?
I think now that we were talking about it, it could be there with purple.
Yeah.
But it's definitely some. Actually, I think corporate might have taken it away from me for the longest time, and I had to find it again. So, and this is all coming as this is being discovered as I'm saying it, because I didn't. Thank you for the question, because I didn't realize it as much. But with all my outside activities, a lot of it had to do with listening deeply and learning how not to interrupt people or advise people all the time, just to be that, as we were talking, the safe containers for people to be in. Yeah. And that included myself, because I had a hard time with not being right or being called out, and that was basically from the corporate world too. Mm-hmm. Like, what is, I mean, one person actually said, who is she, when I tried to make a statement, on my own behalf.
Right.
And it's like, so it stopped me from listening and speaking. Corporate did. So having these outside avenues has brought me back into, back to the passion, back to rediscovering that I do need to be in community with people, or at least out there in the world, talking and listening to people. The circle of trust with Parker Palmer is one of my favorite practices, and that's really where I learned to listen to somebody that speaks very slowly and intentionally, because corporate made you, no, hurry up, get to the end of your story, what do you need, get to the end. And so I had to relearn that too. So I mean, all these skills are there. I mean, now that you've asked me, I'm so blatantly aware now that I had to do these outside activities to bring it back into my world. And I think it was always there. I just had to bring it back.
Yeah. There are two concepts. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but we could spend a day, a couple of lighting the candles, talking about way of being. And way of being, I can remember the first time somebody mentioned that concept to me. I found that interesting, like, what do you mean way of being? And guy's name was Stu Lavery, I want to say. He was a red-haired guy from Denver, Colorado, and big man. And he said, we get out of our parents' home and we go out into the world and we behave, but we have no idea how it lands with people. And we have no idea that there are other possible ways for us to be. And I said, I still don't know what you mean by that. And he said, you don't have to. He said, that's not a problem. He said, a way of being is not a formula for how to act. It's creating yourself as a construct. And this is like, wow, I've never heard these kind of words strung together before. So I got very interested in what's that all about? What does way of being mean? Well, as I spent more time, what I found was being known for how you act, or being known for what, and being consistent, so that people have this immediate trust and immediate likability, beyond being, charismatic or funny or that sort of thing, being real, okay, being authentic. And so while we were looking into that whole thing and spending a lot of time being with a lot of different types of people that, you have those thoughts in your head when you meet somebody and you think more about them than you actually do because you just met them, but it's because they're of color or they're gay or they're this or they're that. Like, there's a generalization, that in our homes and in our schools and in our upbringing, we interacted with people who said things about those kind of people or behaved in a way with those kind of people that was either coming from fear or anger, okay? Almost never from love. So it always seemed to me like if I could approach interactions with all human beings coming from love, what would that be like? Just like, so now the other part of it is that being that kind of a person, it grants being to the other person. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to prove. There's no place to get to. It's all about interacting authentically with another human being that allows them to put forth who they actually are as well. And not some strategy or tactic or something that, that's kind of quick and glib that they've learned that gets them out of a tricky situation. So I think the evidence of whether or not that was working always, for me, had to do with how long's the conversation. The quick conversations never got to the point of authenticity, and were over before they started. But Making
Yeah, I think
friends with,
that discernment word comes back in again.
there you go. So
And
say
it's
some more
interesting.
about that.
Yeah, we just had on today. He's a leadership expert, David O'Brien, and the 3 questions he asks himself in the morning is, what's important to me today? Why is it important to me today? And what do I want to be known for today?
Yeah.
So I thought that was, along the same lines, like, who do I want to be today? And what is it based on? And I know my corporate life was different than my now life, and I want to continue being this way, but how can I even be a better this today?
Yeah, that it just reminds me of after I started my own business. The following year, I went through a program called the Forum, and the Forum leader, Roger Smith, was distinguishing, being right. He was distinguishing being right by demonstrating people who had to be right. And he would say something, and then they would argue with him. And his answer was always, "You're just being right." Well, no, I'm not. This is how it is. This is the facts. This is just the way that it is. You're just being right. He said that like 25 times, and people would not disengage with them. And then sooner or later, somebody would get it, and they go, "I'm just being right." And the really cool thing for me was, I got up and shared afterwards. I said, I don't get to be wrong. In my corporate position,
Right.
I get to be wrong. People get fired, at least it seems that way. And so that was a very powerful step forward for me when I realized that almost all the things that I did, all the conversation that I brought forth was coming from the need to always be right. And I also found out that I wasn't the only one.
Years ago, because one of my first forays outside of the bounds of my corporate world I was part of Primerica, and they were very heavy on self-improvement and big gatherings to reward people for what they had done. And I'll never forget, because the guy asked, who knows where the first Kentucky Fried Chicken was? And everybody raised their hand, and they were shouting out the answers. And he was just like, no. And you can be wrong. You don't have to be right. You don't have to know the answer. And learn from not knowing, and I was like, one of the bigger lessons too. It's like, oh, because like you said, you have to be right or you're in trouble. So it was like hysterical, because I think the first one was in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. But everybody had to have the right answer, or look like they had the right answer.
Yeah.
And prove it. And then just prove that, and then prove that they didn't. But I thought it was an amazing lesson. Like, you don't have to know all the answers. Sit down and let other people tell you what they're, who know the answers. Listen to the people who know the answers.
And it was really kind of cool, because in the 60s and 70s, this is me talking right now. I can't tell you that it's true or not true, but let's just say that it was more or less a patriarchal society of the Lord of the Flies mentality in terms of arguments and making cases, and if your facts had any chinks in them that fell apart, then your whole argument was invalidated, and you didn't know what you were talking about, and you walked away from the situation feeling badly about it, right? So during that whole period of time, being able to memorize facts, read a lot of books, be able to internalize all this stuff, and then also quote sources, huge part of debating, right? So during the 1990s, I was asked to be on the superintendent's planning for 2025, school system, how we were going to be, operating in 2025. And I was arguing we need to teach people to problem solve. We need to teach our children the critical steps in analyzing a situation, because as time goes on and as the internet gets stronger, it will not matter who's right. It will only matter what's right. And we need to teach them how to get the answers, not be able to defend the one that they remember, But no, pick up your phone and go and Google it, and then if the Google, can be borne out by a Bing search and then maybe another, maybe you got something there. But these days, all you need to do is to know how to go and get the answer that you're looking for. And that's what I've been doing, putting all these technological bits together to develop this new product that I'm coming out with. It's out there. I know it's out there, so I'm going to go find it.
Yep.
I don't have the training or engineering background to do this, but that's never stopped me before.
You can find the answer, but you don't have to say you know the answer if you don't. That's the thing.
There are plenty of smart people out there that are willing to give me the benefit of their experience and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just that kind of guy that they would share that with for some reason. I have no idea why. But it's fun, on the kindness of strangers.
Right.
So in terms of putting a bow on this, because we're getting more or less to the top of this, just flew by, Lisa.
I know.
It's been awesome sitting here and having a one-on-one conversation with you. But what's the main thing for you this week? What's on your mind and on your heart? And is there something that you can point to that you're creating in the world?
Well, we're trying to actually, develop a course or a program, or at least a more encompassing offering to bring to people, entrepreneurs especially, so that they can keep their business and love it again. Because I know a lot of people are in such a struggle right now, and find out where their strengths and weaknesses are, and fix the ones that are weak, and focus on the ones that are strong. And so that's kind of been where my mind's been going lately, on how I want to create something new, basically, is what it comes down to. So something, that's fun and new and has a lasting component to it, where they can use it to better themselves and their business, and move it, use it moving forward, basically. So it's kind of like that creative thought process. Like I said, imagination is the new currency, and I'm loving having to create something new.
That's fantastic. And there you go again. Your attention is on other people. And one of the things I love about you,
You too.
Yeah.
Mr.
So,
Networker.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's what we're doing. Each conversation, one person at a time, one group at a time, we're bringing a new level of trust and relationship, of people just being willing to share themselves with other people, to practice a way of being that becomes natural and authentic, and to grant being to as many other people as possible, so that they actually feel heard, understood, and appreciated. And that's kind of it for me for this week.
I mean, as we like to say, in one page at a time.
One page at a time. I like it. Yeah, I need to write another article for Epic. I've got one in me. It's starting to come forth. It's percolating.
Cool.
So with that said, anything else, my friend?
I am complete, as they like to say.
As usual, it's been fun holding hands with you, Lisa, for a half hour, and I hope you go off into the world.
Let's high five.
High five. The world is calling.
That's our cue.
Have an amazing rest of the week, and I'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a world that works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.